Well, hello, welcome. This is Scott Chase, KZ106 afternoon driver for ever and ever and ever. Now do middays on our country station, 107.9 Country, 52 minutes of new country each and every hour. Kelly McCoy joins me on the radio Ranchcast weeklies here. Kelly, how are you doing? You doing okay, girl? What's up?
Man, I am good. What a gorgeous day we got going after the rain this morning. I am psyched.
I would have never guessed when I woke up first thing that it was going to be like this. Although I did see Chip Chapman yakking on News 12 this morning. He said it's going to turn nice this afternoon, and he nailed it too.
Yeah.
Dodger joins us once again this afternoon for our radio Ranchcast, our weekly video podcast that we generate here from we're actually not from Highville Road, the radio Ranchcast right now, but we're going to keep the name until we get back there.
From multiple locations, yes.
And Dave Kennedy is joining us right now. He's been a friend of the family forever and ever and ever, and I've been to many of your shows. I think maybe the last show was either Songbirds or it may have been the Ringgold Acoustic Cafe. I know I saw you guys play down there a time or two. How you been, buddy? You good?
I'm good, and I've played both of those places a time or two. So who knows?
Probably both places. My guess would be.
The last year, time is a flat circle. So who knows what all is going on at this point in time?
It has been a weird time as we prepare for these. And I asked these guys, Dodger and Kelly, what's going on? And I was on the couch with Julie the other night, and she goes, "Man, what about Dave Kennedy? Bill Kennedy, of course, your dad is her cousin, and so they've known one another forever and ever." And I said, "Well, yeah, man, he'd be good. Talk to a guy that's a songwriter that knows some people that we do from Chattanooga, now living, of course, up in Nashville, and has been living whatever that life is since a little bit before spring of last year. So it has been a very different time, hasn't it?"
It's been very strange, very strange. But at the same time, I think it's been an interesting time that people have really gotten creative in the way that they are getting music out there, in the way they're performing for people, in the way that we're trying to make connections. I think that's what, all of us have learned as much as anything over the last year is that we need human interaction. We need connection. It's not just a want. It is something that we need to survive. And so hopefully before long we can get back to a little bit more of that. But the ways that people have found, for instance, some buddies of mine and I have been putting together a weekly songwriter series we call Southern Rounds, and we've had amazing songwriters come on. We've actually, some of the tech guys have developed a new technology to allow us to stream from 4 or 5 different locations at once and to still talk with one another and do that. So that's kept us busy. I know a lot of people have done online shows and beginning to venture back out into the world of distance live music that we're all really, really looking forward to.
What was the initial response when this started to kick off for you guys? I mean, was it just panic? Was it like, oh my gosh, this can't last and we'll be back out on the road in a couple of weeks or back in front of people? I mean, the initial response overall for everybody was a little different, but for a musician and somebody that's lives their life in front of people,
sure,
had to have been a little bit of a different and a bit of a shock for you.
I am an eternal optimist, so and still am, even though that's been tested certainly over the last year. So my reaction originally was, this will be a couple weeks and we'll all lock down and it'll be all right, because none of us in our lifetime had ever seen anything to this scale. And I remember at one point in time, it was like, we all got to stay inside for 6 weeks. And it was like, oh my gosh, 6 weeks. How are we ever going to, you mean to tell me a month and a half I have to stay inside? And that seems like a vacation at this point, But I think it was just like everyone else. We didn't know what we didn't know. And so I think there was everything from the summer and spring got pushed to the fall. Well, by the fall, it'll be okay. We'll get to the summertime and people will be able to be outside, and generally respiratory stuff goes away in warm weather. And then all that stuff got pushed back. And then we got into the wintertime. And I think it's just kind of like everybody else. Obviously for us, for so many people, touring is the way they make a living. I'm fortunate enough that I write for a publisher. And so I still am able to make some money doing that. And that has really been a blessing to both me and my family. But it's, it sounds cliche to say that we were all in this together, but we kind of were. As much as we missed playing, I know that so many people missed the opportunity to go out and play shows. And then, you start feeling sorry for yourself, and then you start thinking, well, man, people are in the hospital with this thing. Like, the worst thing that's happening to me is that I can't play music. And at some point in time, I will be able to do that again. So a perspective like that is really what's important. Then people start losing their jobs, and you just think, my gosh, how grateful I am that I'm able to still, like I say, through things like the Southern rounds that I've done and some of the other virtual shows, and then beginning to do some socially distanced shows. I think if anything else, it made me, and where my mind has been, wow, this really, it is a calling. It is, a thing that I can't stop doing, because so much of my identity is wrapped up in playing music and being in front of people and connecting and having those sort of interactions. And so I think that has been the biggest thing. It's like, wow, if you ever thought that perhaps this was something that you could give, they always say, if you can do anything else and be happy, you should do something else. Well, this proved to me that I can't be happy doing anything else. This is the thing. So
When you find out you could write songs, people that can write and create songs, it just blows me away. I mean, is it something that just comes to you? Is it something that you work on? Is it like, well, I've got to go in and I got to write here for the next whatever amount of time that would be? Or is there a particular time of the day or the week, or when the weather is a certain way that you feel more inspired and more creative than others do?
For me, it's all the above. I'll say the first dozen or two songs that I wrote were terrible, and I will never play them for anybody because they're just really bad. But it's like anything else. The first time you try to go step up and hit a curveball, you're going to strike out. You got to do it and get the repetitions in there and take some swings. And so this shows to you that I certainly am left-brained and an artist, because the last real job I had, I spent most of the days sitting there trying to find ways to look like I was working. And I would try to tinker around writing songs and researching and listening to stuff like that. And I remember I wrote a couple of songs and I was like, these aren't half bad. I would listen to these songs. And that's kind of been my barometer through the years. I played them for a couple of folks and they were like, that's pretty cool. And from there, I met a guy named Terry Adams, who is an attorney in Knoxville, who is also one of my best friends. And he had done some songwriting and had some success with that once upon a time, as did his mother. Terry was the guy that said, well, if you haven't written 100 songs, you're not a songwriter. And if you want to be a songwriter, that's a thing. And I had no idea that was a thing that you could do, that you could pursue that career. It just never occurred to me. And so he was like, give me a call when you've written some more songs. And so I did exactly what you're saying. I sat down and I said, I got to write more songs. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And some of them were okay. And some of them are really good and I still play them. And some of them are terrible. But you kind of, I think it was Ray Wiley Hubbard said he was working on a song one time and he couldn't finish it. And somebody told him, hey, man, just rhyme the damn thing and move on. Like, there's going to be another one coming along. And I heard Willie Nelson say one time, not to ever compare myself to maybe the greatest of all time, but he likes to ride around in his car. And something about driving around in his truck or in his car just kind of inspires him. I don't know if it's, your mind is focused on this over here and it actually kind of allows the rest of your brain to operate in a different way, or the creative side to operate. But I have found that I do a lot of writing, or at least get a lot of ideas when I'm driving in the car. And so this past year, when we haven't gone anywhere, it has been from time to time difficult to find that creative inspiration that used to get just literally from driving gig to gig back in the days where I did that 250 times a year. So, but yeah, sometimes it's a grind and sometimes it just pours out of me. And I think that's kind of the same way for everybody. If anybody had it figured out exactly how to do it exactly right every time, all the rest of us would be out of a job. So I hope nobody ever figures it out, because I certainly haven't.
When you're writing a song, are you thinking about a particular person that do you feel like you can make magic out of that song in a recording, or is it more just the material and the song itself?
Sure. It depends for me. Some songs are very autobiographical, at least in the sense that maybe at least some version of this instance actually occurred to me. And some are just complete fabrications of your brain. And then you have what oftentimes happens in Nashville is for the most part, people co-write. There aren't a whole lot of songs that come out, at least on the radio, or that are hits that are written by one person anymore. And so in those rooms, often if it's somebody that I know really well, like our buddy Channing Wilson, Channing's one of my best friends. We've written a lot of songs together. I can say whatever in front of Channing, and if it's bad, he can tell me, "Hey, dude, that's terrible. We can get that." And it's okay because we've been through the grind together, you know. But if it's somebody I don't know, you do sometimes kind of feel each other out for the first hour, even just to almost kind of get to know each other before somebody goes, "Well, you got any ideas?" And then it just kind of turns to people rolling through their phone and their notes going, "Well, I had this title that I thought, or I had this line." And from there, yeah, sometimes there's always a girl, it seems like. And so sometimes it's been my daughter, it's been my wife, it's been past lives, it's been any number of things. Anything that feels in the moment like it's inspiring, I jump all over it and just ride it as long as it'll go, because inspiration doesn't always come, and certainly doesn't always come easily.
Do you see something different in where like people are from, where songwriters are from, where they originate their ideas? I mean, I think we see a lot of people. I feel like within our area, North Georgia, Chattanooga, this greater area of Tennessee, recently there's been a lot of success with songwriters. You mentioned Channing, of course, is one of those big names that has come out and has had hits with the Luke Combs of the world. But it seems like it's been extra relatable from people from this area recently. Do you see that that's a difference in where people are getting their inspiration from, where they're drawing their writing from?
Well, yeah, I mean, people from, Chattanooga and North Georgia are just smarter and better than everybody else, So, I think from time to time I think you certainly see that in Texas. Texas is kind of its own thing, and the Texas songwriting and music community is very protective of itself and of the people there. So I think, and I have a lot of my heroes are those Texas Guy Clark, Steve Earle, Towns Van Zandt type folks. So I've been asked a few times, just out of the songs that I've written, if I am from Texas. There's a lot of Kentucky, it seems like, in Nashville right now, a ton of Kentucky. And I think more than where people are from, you can definitely hear people's inspirations. I mean, I know that sounds, like it ought to be that way anyway, but you can tell if somebody, I can oftentimes tell who you're into by writing with you or listening to a couple songs. Oh, that guy's listened to some, a lot of, maybe it's, I don't know, Stax Records soul music before. You can hear some. Oh, that person's listened to a whole lot of rock and roll. I can hear the Rolling Stones in that. But at least for myself and Channing, it was that Texas pure songwriter thing that we both kind of realized we were both really, really into, and then we were both into Springsteen. So that helped a whole lot too.
It's not
So is
that influence.
A country song or a rock song harder to write or easier to write, or does it really doesn't make any difference?
It's they are different to me. A country song, it always seems like it's a little bit more of a story, a little bit more of a ballad. I think you have a little bit more opportunity for poetry in country and even in folk music, because it's much more lyric driven. I've worked and I have a rock and roll side project called the Kennedy Wood Band with my friend Andy Wood, who is a virtuoso guitar player out of Knoxville. And the way most of that starts is Andy will write a bunch of licks, kind of like, that's the way you hear that, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards wrote, and
Joe Perry, Keith
exactly.
Miller, same thing. Yeah.
Have some sort of a riff, a lick, whatever, and he'll send me that. And a lot of that is just grooving. You want to find some sort of pocket and not lose your groove, not lose that sort of thing. So the story oftentimes becomes less important than the vibe and the groove in those rock and roll songs, at least from what I've found. I mean, that's not to say that there aren't incredible stories and ballads that exist in rock music, but rock music is, you're supposed to move. It's supposed to make you move your head and move your ass and move your feet and everything, So
yeah.
If I'm not allowed to say ass on here, sorry about that.
You can't. Sounded good, man. Say it a time or two more in a few minutes, would you?
Making sure.
Man, my boys have turned me on to Tyler Childers.
Yeah.
And I have become just a massive fan.
Yeah.
We sit down and play pool, and I'll throw man, he's one of those guys that his lyrics, they just touch me. I don't. Yeah. Maybe it's that Kentucky background, because I moved down here from Western Kentucky anyway.
Yeah, he's another one of those Kentucky guys. It seems like they've taken over. He's a person who it's clear that he has found his voice, And that's not often, at least for an artist, I think not an easy thing to do, because you're constantly trying to make it, and you're trying to impress someone, and you can also get caught up in, you go into a meeting with a record company or a publishing company, and you're thinking, okay, what do they want to hear from me? What is it they're looking for? Rather than who am I and what do I offer and how am I different? And I think that he's a guy who he knows who he is. And that is, man, if you can find that and then find an advocate for that, that's the whole ball game to me. If you know who you are and you're willing to put that out there and you believe in it, and then find some other people around you, like Sturgill did with him, and many others, obviously, not to just say that it was all Sturgill Simpson. Tyler's obviously got an incredible amount of talent. The first time I ever saw him play was when Brent Cobb was putting out his first record, and Brent's a friend of mine. We all went out to support that. Adam Hood was opening for Brent. Adam is another really, really good friend of mine, and music you guys ought to check out. And there was this guy, red-haired kid, up there on stage, just him and a guitar opening up. And Channing and I were both there, and both being friends of Brent, and sitting here going, why the hell did he ask this guy to open up? Like, I'm his buddy. Why didn't he ask me? I could have come out here and played 6 songs. Damn. And he started playing, and we were like, oh, all right, I get it. And so I don't often do this, but I went up to him, and I didn't have a clue who he was. And I was like, man, that was really good, man. I really appreciated it. And I probably bought a CD or something like that. And the next thing you know, Tyler Childers is everywhere, and he deserves it, man. He is super talented. And like I say, it's clear that he knows who he is and who he wants to be.
So your songwriting affairs that you do, be a name dropper. Who are some of the people that have spent some time and showed up at one of those?
Yeah. Well, as far as people that I've written songs with, the thrill of my life so far was I got to write a song with Travis Tritt. That was huge. Travis was an advocate of mine when I did the Real Country Show several years ago. He picked me up. He was honestly the whole reason I agreed to do the show. That was not something that I had ever really been interested in. I've not been super interested in The Voice and American Idol and all that. But when one of your heroes goes, hey, man, we're doing this thing, and I want you say, tell me where to show up, man. And after that, we got to write a song. He didn't end up cutting it for his record, but it doesn't make any difference to me, because I got to sit there and write with a guy that I used to listen to when I was a kid on the radio and bought his tapes and CDs and everything. So that was incredible. As far as what we've been doing with our Southern Rounds thing, it's mostly songwriters. Wyatt Durrett is another dear friend of mine. He's another writer for Blackstone Entertainment, the publisher that I work for. And Wyatt wrote Chicken Fried and Colder Weather and Sweet Annie and all those Zac Brown songs. And he wrote Beautiful Crazy and Even Though I'm Leaving with Luke Combs. He's going in the Hall of Fame one day. And so Southern Rounds was Wyatt's brainchild. And we've had everybody from myself to a guy named D. Vincent Williams. D wrote I'm Moving On for Rascal Flatts, a huge song. James Otto, who's been played on the radio several times, then also wrote In Color for Jamie Johnson. James played a couple weeks ago. I did a Chattanooga show that I booked with myself and Channing and Roger Allen Wade a while back in December, because, again, those are just two guys that I've always looked up to. Obviously, like I say, Channing and I have developed a close friendship, and Roger is such a good advocate and such a sweet advocate for people like myself and Channing, especially those of us from around the Chattanooga area. He's just such a great guy, and I want more people to know that while I think Loving You is like frying bacon necking is hilarious, Roger has some of the deepest and most beautiful songs that you've ever heard, and so want to be able to share him with the world too. So we're looking forward to actually 2 days from now we're doing a show with Chris Gelbuto, D. Vincent Williams, and myself. I'm bringing in some ringers to play guitar, mandolin, and dobro on that one. That's going to be fun. Brent Cobb and Adam Hood and Charlie Starr, Blackberry Smoke are going to be on next week. We've had some really cool folks. Looking forward to moving that forward.
If we want to find that, where would we find that? We'll pass it along, obviously, but go ahead and spill the beans now.
Like I say, it's a live stream on the internet. We do it at a website called BeHerePresents.com. It'd be 8 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. And then we're also, I think that's a $5 ticket, but you can actually kind of submit requests and act with us there. It's kind of the VIP version. And then if you just want to check it out and watch it, you can actually go onto my Facebook page and stream it. We stream it live from pretty much any page of the people who are playing the show. And then Southern Rounds has its own brand on Facebook and Instagram and everything else. So we do it all there. Yeah, exactly.
And there's the stuff right there.
Yeah, and so they'll have all kinds of clips and everything else on there. It is a lot of fun, and it has really, in a dark time, has really helped fill my cup as far as being able to interact and play songs and just perform for people. Because man, it has been difficult. Difficult in a personal level, but we're still here and we're still breathing. So
we are, man. And things appear to be. I'm not going to say we totally turned the corner, but it appears we're headed certainly in the right direction. Anyway.
Yeah, it seems that way. I hope we keep moving forward with it. Hope everybody just keeps remembering to look out for one another. That seems to be the thing.
Here's curious for how you see this as a songwriter. How do you stay ahead of the curve when it comes to songwriting? Because one of those things that I've heard a couple of people say that are involved in the songwriting game is that if you're writing what you hear now, you're behind. So you've got to find a way to kind of stay in front of what people are hearing. How do you find yourself out in front as opposed to being caught up behind and sounding outdated, perhaps, what you're not trying to do?
Sure. As somebody who, at least thus far, hasn't had the gigantic hit, I'm so far out in front of everybody else. I'm just waiting on them to catch up to me at this point in time. I've always heard that. I do think things move a little bit faster right now. In that, because oftentimes music doesn't come out in an album form the way it once did. I don't know that is perhaps as true as it was 10 or 15 years ago. There's certainly movements that happen in any kind of music, and there, at one point in time there was this what everybody called the bro country thing going on. It seems like right now there is and Luke, I think, Combs has a lot to do with this. There seems to be a little bit of a throwback to kind of that 90s country that a lot of us grew up on listening to. So all that to say, I have a hard time chasing anything other than what I know and what I like. And so I hope that I have something to offer, and I think I do, and I'm going to keep doing that and putting out my own music, and hopefully that'll happen one day for me too. That'd be awfully nice. But I do think, like I said about Tyler Childers, as an artist at least, we're always just searching to try to find our voice. What do I have to say? What's important to me? What do I want to get out there into the world? And what am I good at? And rather trying to be okay at what seems to be working over here, I'd rather focus on being really good at what it is that I do.
We got the news for Chris Christopherson that he's not going to perform. I never saw that guy live. I cannot believe that I never got out to see him live. And he played here in Chattanooga within the past, 5 years, I guess, anyway, probably. So did you ever have a chance to be in the same room with him?
I saw him twice and met him once. I saw him both times were in Knoxville. The first time I saw him was just him and a guitar. I think he's up there. Is he right? There, I think.
Yes.
Did I do that right? Look at that. It was just him and a guitar telling stories and playing songs. And that would have been back in like 2008 or so. I was just really very at the very beginning stage of my career, 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. And I love hearing somebody just them and a guitar. I lament that I didn't get to go to New York and see Springsteen when he was doing his one-man show. I think that would have been, I've watched it on Netflix like 6 times all the way through just because it's so good. And the second time I saw Christopherson was truly incredible because it was him with Merle Haggard and Strangers.
Mm.
And they just stood on stage together and went back and forth. Merle would play a song and Chris would strum and sing on it. Chris would play a song and Merle would sit and play lead guitar on it. And Merle Haggard is, for my money, the greatest who ever did it in the country music game, just all the way around. And so seeing the two of them together was just unbelievable.
Well, what year was it Merle Haggard played Riverbend? Because I was there. I watched it, man. We sat there and I was there with my buddy Duke and some of those guys from Buck and Duke and those guys. 10 years ago or the like, and it was just, you're right, and absolutely breathtakingly special night. You reckon those guys had any fun together? You know,
I've heard some stories about Merle and Willie and Ray Price in particular when they were on tour together. And if I told you who they said had the best weed, you wouldn't believe it. But they all claimed it was Ray Price. I don't know. You didn't hear that from me, folks. I just made that up. That's not a true story.
well, man, I'll watch I'm going to be a part of your show.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's a lot of fun. Like I say, I think it really does. It's called Southern Rounds. Every week we try to turn it over with new hit songwriters and artists and people who we feel like need to be heard. And we always have such a good time. It's just kind of bringing the Nashville songwriter round into your living room. And then hopefully by this summer and fall, the plan is to take that on the road. We had that planned out for last year, and this whole thing was kind of a pivot when we weren't actually able to tour. And so I hope you guys will check it out. I do think it's a lot of fun, and we certainly have a blast with it. So
I promise we will. In fact, when you're going to play, and keep us in the loop of where you're going to get out and play and do things, so we can we can spread the word. We'll support you, and we'll come and see you and party with you too.
That sounds great.
I like that.
We're looking forward to it. I am doing a show with Drake White in early April. Drake is another dear friend of mine down in Decatur, Alabama, not too far away. But yeah, we're going to do that one. Like I say, just kind of dipping our toes back into that world and seeing how it feels. And then got the Key West Songwriter Festival that we're all crossing our fingers will happen in early May. They sent those invitations out last week when Nashville was covered in snow. And so we were all like, yes, please, I'm coming. Yes, I promise I will be there. I booked my plane ticket today.
I'm glad you mentioned Drake White, because I think he is one of those that I can't express how much I love listening to the Spark album, and from top to bottom. It's funny because nowadays everybody releases songs and singles and you don't hear the whole album, but that is one of those recent albums that top to bottom, from song one to song whatever it is, I'm all in, and I love that guy as an artist.
He's great. I was actually his opening act when he did his headlining tour for that Spark record. I toured all over the country with him on that one, and he's another one of my best friends, and a guy that I'm so proud of, and I'm so thankful given what he's gone through in the last year or two.
Yep.
That Drake's doing okay. I got to play a show with him and Riley Green this past fall, and it was just so good to be on stage with Drake again. I love that.
Did I not see him open for Blackberry Smoke? Maybe I'm sure
you did
at the ballpark a while back. I believe, pretty sure.
That would check out for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of Blackberry Smoke, Charlie Starr is going to be on Southern Rounds next week.
God, what a good dude, man. He is a good, solid dude. I've had a couple of chances to hang with him for a while. Yeah, I love that band. I always have. Kelly and I both been big fans. KZ's been big supporters of Blackberry Smoke, Southern Fix at 6, and otherwise. Yeah, we're fans. And particularly of Charlie. He's a just stand-up good dude.
Yeah. All those, the Blackberry Smoke and the Steelwoods and Whiskey Myers, that whole kind of subgenre there is I played a show in Chattanooga with the Steelwoods back in, was that December or so? And then was fortunate enough to have a song on the Whiskey Myers last record. So all that whole subgenre, man, it's right in my wheelhouse. I love those guys.
Yeah, I think that's a great little niche that's opening up right now. It's like that pseudo Southern rock country vibe that just really blends across the board for so many in our region, especially. And I wish the most of success to those bands that are doing that, because I think it's a cool sound.
Yeah, it's rock and roll for people who have a story to tell, and I will. Man, I'll carry the torch for anybody who wants to play rock and roll music anymore, because somebody's got to keep it going,
No doubt. Well, thanks, buddy, man. Dave Kennedy.
Thank you guys
singer,
so much
songwriter, friend, resident, family member.
That's right.
Nice beard.
Guys, thank you so much. I've keep it going. There's a little bit more gray in it than there used to be, but, that's the way it goes.
Take care of your family. I know. I know you love them a lot. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for spending time out of what might have been a busy day today.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.
All right. That's our Radio Ranchcast today. Y'all take care.